In the Midwest, old farms often come with orchards. Apple trees, planted in long, even rows. Every fall, they're supposed to be harvested. At least, that's how it usually works. The farm I bought late that summer had an orchard too. It sat behind a low hill, hidden from the house. If you stood on the porch, you couldn't see it. You had to walk around the back, across the grass, and down the slope before the trees came into view. The realtor showed it to me on the first day, but he never walked down there. He just stood at the top of the hill, looking at it from a distance. Then he said something strange. "Don't mess with that orchard." I asked him why. He didn't answer right away, just shrugged. "The last owner didn't harvest it." I looked down at the trees. They were full, branches heavy with fruit, perfect rows, healthy leaves. Everything about it looked normal, maybe even too perfect. There were no broken branches, no signs of disease. The apples were red, full, and evenly grown. But there was something missing. No ladders, no tools, no footprints, no sign that anyone had ever picked them. It looked like the orchard had been left untouched for years. I assumed it was just another rural story. Every place like this has something people avoid talking about. So during my first week, I stayed away from it. There was too much work to do anyway. Fixing fences, cleaning the barn, checking water lines across the property. But on the 8th day, I decided to go down there. No real reason, just curiosity. That morning was quiet. No wind, no distant traffic, just still air sitting over the land. I walked behind the house and down the slope. The grass was damp with dew, and the moment I stepped into the orchard, I noticed something immediately. It was quieter there. Too quiet. No insects, no birds, no sound at all. Just rows of trees standing perfectly still. I walked between them slowly. Apples hung at eye level, bright, unmarked, almost waiting. I reached out and picked one. It came off the branch easily. Too easily, like it had been ready for a long time. I turned it in my hand. Smooth skin, no blemishes, a perfect apple. I took a bite. At first, it tasted normal. Sweet, crisp, fresh. Then something changed. Not the taste, the smell. A faint scent. Damp soil, like something that had been underground for too long. I looked at the inside of the apple. Nothing unusual, no rot, no dark spots. But as I held it closer, I noticed something. The flesh inside was moving, very slightly. Not dripping, not decaying, just tightening, then loosening, slowly, like a rhythm. I held it still in my hand. It happened again. Tighten, release. Tighten, release. Like it was breathing. I dropped the apple immediately. It hit the ground softly and stayed there. Didn't roll, didn't split. Just lay still in the dirt. I stepped back, then another step, looking around the orchard. Hundreds of apples hanging from the trees, all perfectly still. Nothing moving, nothing out of place. Except, when I turned to leave, I heard something. Very faint. So faint, I almost missed it. A sound, repeating, all around me. Thump, thump. I slowly turned back, looking up at the trees, and in that moment, I realized something. The sound wasn't coming from one apple. It was coming from the entire orchard. I didn't stay in the orchard much longer after that. I turned around and walked back up the hill without looking behind me. The moment I stepped out of the trees, sound came back. Wind, insects, distant birds, everything that had been missing inside the orchard. I stopped halfway up the slope and looked back. From that distance, it looked completely normal again. Just rows of trees, still, quiet, nothing moving, nothing breathing. For the rest of the day, I tried not to think about it. There were plenty of other things to focus on. Repairs, tools, work that actually made sense. Something solid, something real. But that night, I heard it again. I was in the kitchen, lights off, just standing near the window. The hill behind the house was nothing but darkness. You couldn't see the orchard from there, not even the tops of the trees, just a black slope fading into the sky. That's when the sound came back. Thump. I froze. Thump, thump. It was faint, but there was no mistaking it. The same rhythm, the same slow, heavy pulse, coming from somewhere behind the hill. I leaned closer to the window, like that would somehow help me see through the darkness. But there was nothing there, just empty night, still, silent, except for that sound. Thump, thump, thump. I told myself it had to be something else. Old pipes, loose boards, animals moving underground. Something normal, something explainable. But the rhythm didn't change. It didn't speed up, didn't slow down. It stayed steady, like a heartbeat. I stayed there for several minutes, listening, waiting, trying to convince myself it would stop. Eventually, it did. The sound faded, slowly, until the night went completely quiet again. I didn't sleep much after that, and the next morning, I didn't go back to the orchard. But I couldn't ignore it either, so later that afternoon, I drove into town. There's a small place near the gas station where most of the older farmers sit and drink coffee. I asked one of them about the orchard, just casually, like it didn't matter. He didn't answer right away, just kept stirring his coffee. Then he said something without looking at me. That land used to belong to someone else. I asked what happened to him. The man shrugged slightly. Lost it? I waited, but he didn't say anything else. So I asked the question again, more directly this time. What about the orchard? That's when he finally looked up. His expression didn't change, but his voice dropped a little. He never harvested it. I told him that's what the realtor said too. The man nodded, then added something that made my chest tighten. Didn't matter how good the fruit looked. I asked him why. He hesitated for a second, then leaned back slightly in his chair. Because the trees didn't grow from seeds. I stared at him, waiting for him to explain. But he didn't. He just picked up his coffee and took a sip. Conversation over. That night, I stayed inside again. Didn't go near the hill. Didn't go near the orchard. But sometime after midnight, the sound came back. Thump, Closer this time. Thump, thump. I stood in the dark living room, not moving, not breathing, just listening. The sound wasn't coming from behind the hill anymore. It was coming from the other side of the house. Closer. Lower. Somewhere beneath the ground. And for the first time, I started to realize something. Whatever was making that sound wasn't staying in the orchard. I didn't go back to the orchard. Not the next day, not the day after that. I stayed close to the house, close to things that made sense. Wood, tools, fences, things that didn't move unless I touched them. But the sound didn't stop. It came back every night. A little earlier each time. A little louder. Thump, thump, thump. At first it stayed behind the hill, far enough that I could pretend it wasn't real, far enough that I could ignore it if I tried. But by the third night, it had moved. I was sitting in a living room, no lights, just the faint glow from outside. The hill was still nothing but darkness, the orchard hidden behind it, out of sight. Then I heard it. Thump. Not from the hill, not from the distance. From the side of the house. Closer. Much closer. I turned my head slowly, listening, trying to locate it. Thump. Thump. It came from somewhere low, near the ground. Not above, not far away. Right outside. I walked toward the back door. Each step felt too loud. The floor creaked beneath my feet. The sound stopped for a moment, then came back again. Thump. I reached for the handle, paused, then slowly opened the door. Cold air rushed in. The yard behind the house was empty, still, quiet. I stepped outside. The grass was damp, the air heavy. I stood there, listening, waiting. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, thump, right beneath my feet. I froze. Didn't move, didn't breathe. The ground didn't crack, didn't shift, didn't show any sign of movement. But the sound was there, clear, heavy, alive. Thump, thump. I slowly stepped back toward the porch. The moment my foot lifted off the grass, the sound followed, still beneath me, still moving. I climbed the steps quickly and stepped back inside, shut the door, locked it. The sound didn't stop. Now it was inside, or at least, it sounded like it was. Thump. From below the floor. I stood in the middle of the room, looking down. The wooden boards were still. No cracks, no shifting, nothing visible. But the sound was directly under me. Thump, thump. Slow, steady. Exactly the same rhythm I had felt inside the apple. I backed away, step by step, moving toward the wall. The sound didn't follow this time. It stayed in one place, centered. Like something beneath the house had stopped moving and settled. I stayed there for a long time, just watching the floor, listening, waiting for it to stop. Eventually, it did. The sound faded, slowly, until the room was quiet again. I didn't move for a while, didn't trust that it was really gone. Then finally, I turned away, went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, hands still shaking. That's when I noticed something. The glass trembled slightly in my hand. At first I thought it was just me, but then I saw the surface of the water. Small ripples, spreading outward, slow, even. Not random,
Not from movement, from something below. The same rhythm, still there, still moving, somewhere under the house. Even after the sound had disappeared.
I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. I stayed inside, kept the lights off, listened. The sound didn't come back immediately, but I knew it would. It always did. Each night, a little closer, a little stronger. By the fourth night, I stopped trying to ignore it. I needed to understand what was happening. Just before midnight, I stepped outside again, slowly, carefully. The air felt heavier than before, thicker, like something was pressing down over the land. I stood at the edge of the yard, looking toward the hill. The orchard was still hidden behind it, out of sight. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then, thump. I felt it before I heard it, a deep vibration through the ground, like something far below had just shifted. Then it came again. Thump, thump. Stronger now, not just a sound, a pressure moving through the soil. I looked down. The grass around my boots trembled slightly. Not enough to move, but enough to feel. Enough to know it wasn't in my head. The rhythm continued, slow, heavy, relentless. And then I saw it, just beyond the edge of the yard, where the grass met the slope leading up to the hill. The ground lifted, barely, just a small rise in the soil, like something underneath had pushed upward for a second, then settled again. Then it happened again. A few feet to the side, another small rise. Then another. They moved in a line, across the ground, toward me. I stepped back, heart pounding, watching the soil, watching those subtle shifts move closer, closer, closer. Then they stopped, right at the edge of the yard, right where the grass met the dirt beneath the house. Everything went still again. No movement, no sound, nothing. I stood there for what felt like minutes, waiting for it to start again. But it didn't. Slowly, I turned back toward the house, walked inside, closed the door, locked it. The silence inside felt wrong, too empty, too still. Then, thump, from directly below me. The floor didn't move, but the sound was stronger now, closer than ever. Thump, thump. I dropped to my knees, pressed my hand against the wooden floor. The vibration was there, clear, undeniable, like something large was moving beneath the foundation. I pulled my hand back immediately, heart racing, trying to think, trying to understand. Then something else came back to me, what the man at the diner had said. The trees didn't grow from seeds. I had ignored it, didn't want to think about what that meant. But now, standing in that house, feeling something move beneath it, I started to understand. I grabbed a shovel from the back room, went outside again, walked to the spot where the ground had lifted, just at the edge of the yard. I hesitated for a moment, then started digging. The soil was soft, too soft, like it had already been disturbed. A few inches down, the dirt changed, darker, damp. Then the shovel hit something, not rock, not wood, something softer, but firm. I dropped to my knees and cleared the dirt with my hands, slowly,
carefully, and then I saw it. Roots. Thick, pale, intertwined, but they didn't look like normal roots. They pulsed very slightly, tightening, then relaxing, in the same rhythm. Thump. The ground beneath my hands shifted, just a little, just enough to make me pull back. And in that moment, I realized something I couldn't ignore anymore. The orchard wasn't growing in that land. It was growing from it. And whatever was beneath it was now directly under my house.
I didn't dig any further. The moment I saw those roots move, I dropped the shovel and stepped back. My hands were covered in damp soil, cold, sticky, and for a second, I thought I could still feel that rhythm in them. Thump. Not in the ground anymore. In my hands. I wiped them quickly against my jeans, backed away from the hole, and walked straight back into the house, locked the door, didn't look behind me. That night, I didn't turn on any lights, didn't sit near the windows, didn't go anywhere near the back of the house. I stayed in the center of the room, trying to stay as far from the ground as possible, like that would make a difference. The sound didn't come right away. For a while, everything was silent. Too silent. Then, thump, directly below me. Not distant, not outside, not near the hill. Inside the house, under the floor. Thump. Thump. Stronger than before, slower, heavier, like whatever was down there wasn't just moving anymore. It was settling. I stood there, frozen, listening, trying to understand. But there was nothing to understand anymore. The sound spread, not just one point beneath the floor, but several. Thump. Then another. A few feet away. Thump. Then another, further toward the wall. Like something beneath the house was branching out. I backed toward the door, slowly, step by step, trying not to make a sound, trying not to draw attention. The floor stayed still, but the rhythm followed, not chasing, not rushing, just expanding. I reached the door, unlocked it, stepped outside, and didn't stop walking. I didn't go back that night, or the next day. I stayed in town, found somewhere else to sleep, somewhere far from the farm. I told myself I was done with that place, that whatever was under that land could stay there. But a few days later, I had to go back, just once, to grab the rest of my things. It was morning when I returned. Sunlight covered the field. Everything looked normal again, quiet, still. The house stood exactly the same. No damage, no signs of anything unusual. I didn't go near the orchard, didn't look toward the hill. I just walked straight inside, collected what I needed, and left. As I stepped off the porch, something caught my attention. On the wooden railing, right beside the door, sat a single apple. I froze, slowly turned toward it. It wasn't there before. I would have noticed. The skin was red, smooth, perfect. No marks, no dirt, no signs of anything wrong. I stared at it for a long time,
Then, against my better judgment, I picked it up. It felt warm, not from the sun, not from the air. Warm, like something alive. I held it still in my hand, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. Then I felt it, a slow tightening inside the fruit. Then release. Thump. I dropped it immediately, stepped back, breathing hard. The apple hit the porch and rolled once, then stopped. It didn't break, didn't split, just lay there, perfect, still. But I didn't stay to watch it. I left, got in my truck, and drove away. I never went back to that farm again, but some nights, when everything is quiet, I still hear it. Faint, distant. Thump. Not from outside, not from the ground, from somewhere closer. Like it never stayed in that orchard, and it never stayed under that house. Like whatever was growing there didn't stop. It just needed time to reach somewhere else.